Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. This in the demonstrator group that I belong to, our challenge for the month was to use a technique that we hadn't used for a while. So I selected this, and that is embossing on vellum and coloring the vellum. And so this is the card that I came up with, and I have a few little flowers stamped on the inside. And it's actually a pretty simple card. What you need to make this card is a piece of cardstock. I used very vanilla, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then this is a piece of Pool Party, and I'm going to keep my colors the same on this. So this one is Pool Party, and it's 4 inches by 5 1/4. Then I have a piece of vellum that is 3 3/4 by 5. Then you need a little scrap of Pool Party for your sentiment, and that's really all there is to the supplies. Okay, the stamp set that I'm using is Oh So Eclectic, and I'm using this flower, and I'm using this floral stem, and then I'm using the Pretty Label stamp that has the flourish around the end, and I'm using a little stamp that says thank you, and right now I can't remember where that one comes from, but I'll have it listed down below under the video. So that's what I'm using today, and so let's just get started here. First thing I'm going to do is fold and burnish my card base and get that all ready to go and get that set aside. And actually we can go ahead and adhere this piece of card to the outside of our front, because there's nothing more that we'll be doing with that. So let me put a little bit of snail on this and go ahead and get that mounted on the front of my card. So there we go. All right. So that can just be set aside. And what we're going to be doing our work on is on this little piece of vellum. And I'm going to put this on the silicone sheet because I think you might be able to see that a little bit better than on the white. And the first thing I'm going to do is use my embossing buddy on the vellum and get that nice and coated, because you don't want any stray powder on this one if we can avoid it. Okay, then I'm going to use my Versamark ink, and I have my 2 stamps mounted here. Oh, I might tell you about this stuff. I recently saw on someplace on YouTube about a film. Oftentimes my stamps, I don't put the stickers on the back of them because then they kind of have a hard time sticking to I have a hard time anyway, getting them to stick appropriately to my clear acrylic blocks. And I had heard from several different places about using this clear film on one side of your blocks. And so I'm experimenting with this. I've got clear film on one side of my block for red rubber stamps, and on the other side there's no film, and that's for my photopolymer stamps. And I can tell you that this stamp is on here very firmly, and I didn't trim that little label on the back of this at all, and that is really stuck on there. I would have to work at really peeling that off to get it off. Now, I've been told that maybe this stuff doesn't stay on as well, but so far I haven't had any trouble with it, and I'm trying it with a couple and putting some decals on the back here just to see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is with this, I kind of wanted flowers in 3 flowers in 3 different places, and then the leaves scattered around, and then plenty of place for my sentiment here to one side. So I'm just going to go ahead and start, and I'm going to be fairly deliberate on this and how I'm stamping. I'm going to, this particular flower has a long and a narrow side, and I think that for this I'm going to use sort of the long way right up here in the corner. So I'm going to put 1 flower there, and you might even be able to see that Versamark on there. Then I'm going to turn it a little bit more long ways and get that flower put in here. And then 1 more. And again, putting the long way in here. That's the fascinating thing about doing these kinds of cards. You literally never have 2 of them come out exactly the same. And I don't know if you can see that, but you can see where the Versamark is now on those flowers. And if I move it in the light, maybe you can see a little bit of that. Okay. It definitely, you can see it in real life. It looks like a very serious watermark on the back of this. And I'm going to put a scratch pad down now on this, under this vellum, because I will go off the edges when I stamp this. So bear with me for a minute and we'll be able to see where I've stamped it in a minute. And what I'm going to try and do is just get some of the leaves along the top here. As close into but not touching the flowers as I can. And I'm going to poke a couple right in here. And then there's an opportunity between a couple of these flowers to put a pretty good sized leaf image right in here in the middle. You can see this one here. Okay, pretty happy with that. And then a few along the bottom here, just to continue to add a little balance. And I think I can add a couple more right up here. Now I'm going to put this back on this silicone mat, and perhaps you can see that I've sort of just filled in the spaces in between the flowers with this Versamark. Now what I'm going to do is bring over my gold embossing powder, and cover my piece of vellum here with the gold powder, making sure I get coverage on all the places here. And I think I've got coverage on everything. And then I have a few places that I have some powder that I don't want any powder, so I'll use a little brush here to move that powder away from what we're doing here. Once you dislodge the powder, you can blow it away, and it seems to remove, got some inside this flower. And I think that's just about it. All right, so let me bring up my heat gun then. And let's see, I'm going to move this embossing powder out of the way and get this heat applied. In there, I think I've got all of those places fully embossed, and again I'll bring back in the silicone mat so you can see a little bit more clearly. But isn't that pretty? It just looks so nice, so elegant. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I have a couple of markers here. I have a pool party marker, and I'm going to use the brush end of the marker, and I have a wild wasabi marker, and I like this one because the green was a little brighter, and there's so little opportunity to be able to see the green through the embossing of those leaves. As you can see here, there is minimal space for you to see in between. So let me tell you how I proceeded on this. What I did was, now there's two ways to color vellum. If you color vellum from the back, and a lot of people do that, what happens is you get a more pale color on peeking through. So let me put this underneath so you can see. Now you can still see that pretty well, but I'm going to show you what happens if you color it on the outside. The color should be more vibrant, and you can see, well, the contrast doesn't look, let me add a little bit more from the back here. There we go. You can see how much paler these are compared to the ones that I'm coloring on the front side. And I was going for boldness on this, so I was doing my coloring, and I've got a little piece of paper towel here. The big thing about coloring on vellum is that it takes a long time to dry. And so this is a card that when you're complete, you want to set it aside and leave it be for several hours because the color's going to run, and it's if you touch it, it'll pick up and you're liable to lay down color all kinds of places you don't necessarily want to. So what I'm going to do is put this piece in place on this card and then color it once it's on here, so I don't have to manipulate it much after it is mounted and colored. So how I'm going to adhere this to the front of this card is with some glue dots. One of the things that's kind of nice about this project is, let's see, where's my piercing tool? On the back side here, there's plenty of places to lay down a glue dot that can't be seen from the front side. So I'm putting these glue dots down on the back side of these leaves that I've embossed in the front. And so I'm putting them down in a couple of places here. in 3 of the corners and then this one that's kind of sticking out. So one there and one all the way down here at the bottom, and that is 4 glue dots, I think. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to put this down on this card base here and get that centered. So that's a little different than the one that I completed that I used as my sample. I decided that the thing I wanted to change up this time was to have that pool party background showing through, and I do think I like it better. Okay, so now I'm going to continue coloring, and I'll speed this up so it isn't too tedious for you. But I'm going to color all of these flowers here. Okay, so there I've colored all of the flowers, and now I'm going to take a second, and on the coloring of the leaves, what I decided that I liked was just to brush this tip along the interior of these leaves, and then I'll show you what I did at the end to take some of that color off of the embossed area, because I just want the hint of color poking through those holes in the embossed leaf area. And so there, that didn't take much time. Now on all of it, to help it dry, what I did was I used my paper towel and I went along, and see I'm picking up some of that green, and I want to take it off of the gold because it's not going to stick to the gold, and so you want to get it removed from the gold and then blot. I blotted the flowers so that it would hurry up a bit the drying process. But I didn't want to leave any excess ink on the face of this card to just end up being places that I didn't want to have it. So there we go. That's pretty well done. Now the next thing I'm going to do, so what I'm going to do is stamp my label in Versamark here. And get that gold embossing powder back and get that covered. There we go. And then I'll bring my heat tool back in and emboss the label outline. Okay, then I'm going to use my pool party ink here to put my thank you in the center of this label. So now it says thank you, and I'm going to use my label punch to punch out my sentiment here. There we go. All right, now I can put a few of these things away because we are about finished with this card actually. Oh, I guess I need this out for another minute. put these stamps away, and I did let me get my Stampin' Scrub here and clean up my flower stamp for a quick minute here. Get that Versamark off. Get that dried. Then I'm going to use the Pool Party to put a little stamped flowers here on the inside. And I put a couple down here in the corner and left the decoration simply at that. Okay, now I can put my ink away and my Versamark. And all we have left to do is to add our sentiment here to the front of our card. And I am going to lift that up on dimensionals. Okay, so there we go with our thank you sentiment here. And if I wanted to, I could place another glue dot, and maybe I will, put another glue dot right down under this corner because I don't want that to move. Since I have that sentiment there now, no one will ever see the glue dot. So there we go. There we have our project for the day. This pretty, what is it called again? The Eclectic, Oh So Eclectic. I love this set. With this watercolor kind of underneath, so you can use it as a two-stamp. And I would have gotten this kind of effect if I'd have done the underside in the Pool Party, but I really wanted to emboss this one. So there we have it, our project for the day. And I do think I like the Pool Party rim showing on the outside of this. And I hope you give this a try. Thanks so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do appreciate it. And on Sunday this week, I'll be back with my stationery box tutorial. It is such a beautiful box. So be sure and tune in for that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking at these cards, this was on there terribly crookedly, so I've adjusted that. Let's see, joining Stampin' Up! In the month of July is a very good time. There's some really excellent deals. You always get $125 worth of product for a sign-up fee of $99. There's $40 from me for joining my team. And then right now they have what they're calling a Christmas in July special. And they're giving you what they're calling an essentials pack. And an essentials pack is a snail and a pair of snips and a bone folder and a package of grid paper. There's 100 sheets in a package of grid paper and 2D acrylic blocks. I don't have one right here in front of me, but the Stampin' Up! Oh, here it is. This is a D block. So 2 D blocks for joining Stampin' Up! Right now. And that's one of the things that you get when you join, and they're calling that an essentials pack. And then the other thing that you get when you join in July is there's an early release holiday stamp set that is going to be part of your sign up bonus in July. So you've got a couple more days to do that. And all of that essentials pack and this stamp set is worth another $72. So the 70 plus the 40 is 110, plus the 125 is 135. So you're 235, you're getting 235 and maybe a couple dollars more than that in product for your $99 for signing up. Now's a very good time to join Stampin' Up. And a lot of people join just for the discounts for themselves. They're hobbyists and they really have no intent of making this into a business, and that's all fine. Meanwhile, you can buy anything that you see here today on my website, www.lbettinger.stampinup.net. And until next time, bye.